Lina had always been close to her grandmother, even more so after her parents' tragic accident. So when the old woman passed away, leaving behind a single, peculiar possession for her, a tarnished bronze mirror wrapped in yellowed silk, Lina felt a strange mix of grief and curiosity. The mirror was heavier than it looked, its surface dull with age, its edges etched with symbols that looked less like decoration and more like warnings. A small note tucked beneath the silk read, "Do not break the seal. Never look into it after dark." Her grandmother had been superstitious, prone to muttering old folk tales about spirits and curses. Lina dismissed it as the ramblings of an elderly woman steeped in tradition. Still, the mirror unsettled her. The symbols seemed to shift under her fingertips, as if alive. She traced them absent-mindedly, wondering what secrets they guarded. Against her better judgment, she propped the mirror on her bedroom dresser. The room felt colder afterward, a chill creeping in despite the summer heat. That night, Lina woke to a whisper. Her name, spoken so softly it could have been the wind. But her window was closed. She sat up, glancing at the mirror. For a moment, she thought she saw movement in its shadowed depths, a flicker of something else gazing back. Her heart raced, but when she flicked on the light, the mirror was just a mirror. Shaken, she pulled the silk over it and told herself she was imagining things. After all, it was just an old heirloom. It wasn't until later, when the whispers grew clearer and the shadows deeper, that she realized her mistake. The seal had already begun to weaken, and something was watching her. Waiting. The first whisper came on the third night after Lina placed the mirror on her vanity. It was so faint she almost mistook it for the hum of the air conditioning. A breathy, fragmented sigh that seemed to seep from the glass itself. She froze mid-brushstroke, her hairbrush hovering in the air as she stared at her reflection. The room was silent except for her own shallow breathing. By the fifth night, the whispers multiplied. They slithered through the cracks of her dreams, pulling her awake at 3 a.m. with the unbearable sensation of being watched. When she flicked on the light, her reflection was wrong. Just for a second, a flicker, her eyes were hollow black pits, and a shadow curled over her shoulder like a possessive lover. She stumbled back, heart hammering, but the mirror showed only her terrified face again. Mark laughed it off when she told him, eyes glued to his phone. "You've been working too hard," he said, tossing a takeout container onto her coffee table. "That or you're finally cracking from binge watching those paranormal shows." But that night, as he slept on her couch, Lina heard it again, her name this time. Not whispered, but spoken in a wet, hungry gasp. The mirror's surface rippled like water. A handprint, smeared as if something had pressed against it from the inside, fogged the glass. By dawn, the whispers were a chorus. They dripped into her ears as she emptied drawers, searching for the velvet pouch her grandmother had sealed the mirror in. The symbols stitched into the fabric pulsed under her touch, hot as bleeding coals. When she pressed her palms to her ears, the voices just laughed, low and delighted. They knew she was listening now. They knew she couldn't stop. Lina woke with a start, her sheets tangled around her legs. The room was too quiet. No sound of Mark's breathing, no rustle of blankets. She reached for her phone, the glow of the screen revealing an empty space where he had been sleeping just hours earlier. "Mark," she called, her voice cracking. The apartment was pitch black, save for the dim moonlight trickling through the curtains. She stumbled out of bed, heart pounding, and flicked on the lights. Nothing. No note, no sign of a struggle, nothing but a cold silence that made her skin prickle. Then she saw it faint, jagged symbols carved into the surface of the bronze mirror, words she didn't recognize, etched as if by an unsteady hand. Lina's breath hitched. She hadn't written it. Mark wouldn't have known how. The symbols seemed to pulse under her gaze, a dark ink soaking into the metal like blood. She traced a finger over them, and a whisper hissed against her ear, her name, stretched and distorted. She jerked back, knocking over a lamp. The crash echoed through the empty apartment. She dialed Mark's number. It went straight to voicemail. Then his sister's. Then his coworkers. No one had seen him. No one knew where he was. The police took the report with bored indifference, calling him a voluntary missing person. But Lina knew better. The mirror had taken him. That night, she covered it with a sheet, but the whispers slithered through the fabric, taunting her. The reflection in the glass wasn't hers anymore. Shadows curled at the edges, forming shapes, eyes, fingers, a mouth opening in a silent scream. The mirror was alive. And it wasn't done with her yet. Lina's hands trembled as she clutched the bronze mirror, its surface now clouded with an unnatural mist. The whispers had become unbearable, a chorus of voices pleading and snarling in equal measure. Mark's disappearance had shattered any doubt. This mirror was no ordinary heirloom. She needed answers, and there was only one person she could think of who might understand. Professor Chen's dusty apartment smelled of old books and incense. The elderly historian adjusted his wire-framed glasses as he examined the mirror, his expression darkening with each passing second. "Where did you get this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lina explained her grandmother's inheritance, the warning she'd ignored. Chen's face paled. This mirror is a Jai Hun Jing, a marriage mirror, he said. But not for the living. It was used to bind vengeful spirits, trapping them in the reflection to prevent them from haunting the living. He traced the crumbling seal with a shaky finger. The symbols are fading. The spirit inside is weakening the barrier. Lina's breath hitched. What happens if it breaks free? Chen's gaze was grave. The spirit will seek vengeance on the living, starting with those closest to the mirror's keeper. Your friend's disappearance, it's only the beginning. A sudden chill filled the room. The mirror's surface rippled, and for a moment, Lina glimpsed a face, pale, twisted with fury, staring back at her. Chen gasped. The seal is failing. He grabbed her arm, his grip surprisingly strong. You must not let it out. There are rituals, but they require time. The mirror rattled violently in Lina's hands, and a hairline crack split the ancient bronze. Chen's eyes widened in horror. It's here. The bedroom air turned frigid as the first hairline fracture split the mirror's aged bronze surface. Lina staggered back, her breath forming ghostly clouds in the suddenly frozen room. The whispers she'd heard for weeks swelled into a cacophony of anguished wails, the mirror trembling violently in its ornate frame. A pale hand pressed against the glass from within, fingers splayed like a spider testing its prison walls. With a deafening crack, the ancient seal shattered completely, and the glass exploded outward, yet no shards fell. Instead, they hovered midair, swirling like a macabre constellation around the gaunt figure now stepping through. May's ghostly form shimmered with decay, her once beautiful features stretched into a rictus of eternal fury. The hem of her tattered burial robes dripped an inky substance that burned the floorboards where it landed. 300 years, she hissed, her voice layered with countless others. 300 years screaming in the dark while the world forgot me. Lina's knees buckled as phantom hands, icy and insubstantial, closed around her throat. The stench of grave soil flooded her nostrils. May leaned in, her lipless smile revealing teeth blackened by time. You unlatched the door, little muth. Now you'll feed the flame. Shadows pooled around them, resolving into spectral figures, a procession of hollow-eyed women standing behind May, all previous victims, their mouths stitched shut with rusted wire. A flicker of movement in the remaining mirror fragments caught Lina's eye. Her own reflection mouthed silent pleas as the glass slowly fogged over with blood. The air in Lina's apartment hung thick with dread, as the ghostly figure of May materialized fully from the cracked mirror. Her hollow eyes bore into Lina's soul, and her voice, though barely more than a whisper, carried the weight of centuries of rage. You have two choices, May murmured, her skeletal fingers tracing the edge of the broken glass. Become my vessel, or watch as I tear through the lives of everyone you hold dear, one by one. Lina's hands trembled as she clutched the edges of her sweater, her mind racing. She thought of Mark, already gone without a trace, and the cryptic message left behind in a language she couldn't understand. She thought of her parents, her friends, all unwitting targets of May's wrath. Swallowing hard, she nodded. I'll do it, she whispered, her voice cracking. I'll be your vessel. A grotesque smile twisted May's lips as she reached out, her icy touch brushing Lina's cheek. Wise choice, she cooed. But know this, once the pact is sealed, there is no turning back. The mirror's cracks pulsed with an eerie light, and Lina felt a surge of unnatural cold seep into her bones. As May's presence retreated back into the mirror, Lina's fear hardened into resolve. She wouldn't let this creature win. Professor Chen's warnings echoed in her mind. Destroy the mirror before the spirit fully escaped. Waiting until the dead of night, Lina gathered the shattered pieces into a cloth, her hands steady despite the terror gnawing at her. She had to end this. But as she raised a hammer over the largest shard, a sudden force wrenched her arm aside. The mirror's surface shimmered, and May's laughter filled the room. Did you truly think it would be that easy? The spirit hissed. Lina's breath caught. May had known all along. The bargain was a trap, and she was already out of time. Lina's hands trembled as she gripped the heavy silver hammer, its weight both a comfort and a curse. The air in the room had grown thick, oppressive, as if the walls themselves were closing in. May's voice slithered through her mind, a venomous whisper urging her to surrender, to accept her fate. But Lina couldn't. She wouldn't. With a desperate cry, she swung the hammer down onto the ancient bronze mirror. The sound of shattering glass echoed like a scream, the shards scattering across the floor like glittering tears. For a moment there was silence, then the room erupted into chaos. The shadows surged forward, twisting and writhing like living smoke, and Lina felt a cold, invasive presence clawing its way into her very soul. Her breath caught in her throat as her body convulsed, her limbs moving against her will. She tried to scream, but no sound escaped. The reflection in the broken shards at her feet was no longer hers. It was May's. The ghostly woman's lips curled into a triumphant smile, her eyes gleaming with malice. Lina's vision blurred, her thoughts dissolving into darkness. As her consciousness slipped away, she caught one final glimpse of herself in the fragments of the mirror. Her reflection stared back, eyes wide with terror, mouth frozen in a silent plea. Then, slowly it smiled, a cruel, knowing smile. The last thing Lina felt was the icy grip of Mai's spirit settling into her bones, binding her forever. In the shattered remains of the mirror, the echoes of her final moments played on an endless loop. Her face twisting into maze, her voice fading into nothing. And the reflection, now forever changed, watched her with a gaze that would never blink, never look away.